Happy birthday, LTN. Daddy loves you.
All right, I am here with Bubba Stallcup, who is the CEO and one of the 6 original founders of Love Thy Nerd. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Anybody who's following us in real time knows that I'm having some health issues with my arm, but hopefully when you listen to this in the future, I still have said arm. That'd be great.
I think I'm posting a video, which will be up by the time anyone hears this. It's called Just Cut It Off Already.
I saw it, yeah. I saw it post, yeah.
Well,
Sometimes I feel that way.
So it is this is the 6th that this is airing here on Back Row Radio's Back Row Radio. Holy cow. No, sorry.
No, I don't think
The
so.
Back
Nice
Row
try,
Morning
guy.
Show. Sorry.
That's not in your contract.
Wow. The Back Row Morning Show. And that is a day after the 5th birthday, as it were, for Love Thy Nerd.
Happy
So,
birthday.
5 years ago,
Birthday.
5 years ago, you sat down with the other 5 founders and announced on a Facebook live stream to those who were already kind of supporting you at the time that your new venture would be called Love Thy Nerd. So I guess the first question is trying to remember back all the way 5 years ago, which a lot's happened. Gosh, pandemic, everything.
Yeah.
How do you remember feeling in that moment?
In that particular moment,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah,
in the
in the-
moments of that weekend?
Leading up to it, but in the announcement video, like, how did it feel? Were you confident? Were y'all worried?
Yeah. Yes to both. What a great question to ask and to try to like remember those feelings. I feel like what happens is anytime you try to remember a feeling, you misremember the feeling. And so I remember being a little bit conflicted, if we're being real. We'd had a really long weekend talking about what this next thing was going to look like, how we were actually going to put it together. We didn't know when we came together that weekend if we were even going to be together at the end of the weekend. We had no idea. But as far as the initial announcement goes, it was cathartic, to say the very least, to just be able to get this thing out to the public, things that we had labored over. I saw some pictures come up in my feed. I think they were on my phone. Like my iPhone just tells me, hey, you remember way back when we did this thing? And I had some pictures of as we were going through, like trying to figure out what we were going to name this organization once we decided that we were going to do it together. And I remember finally being able to talk about it, and we had the live stream going. It was it was in our current Facebook group, which at the time was called Working Title, because we didn't have a name for it. And when we finally were able to release the name of it, which we labored over, but not for like weeks, months, or anything like that. It was literally like about a couple of hours that we talked about what the name of this thing was going to be. Cathartic is just like the perfect word to come to mind.
Do you remember any of the other options for names?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah. I lobbied very hard for Working Title because I thought it was hilarious. And another one that was a front runner was Play Well. And we actually ended up turning that into a value of ours because we liked it so much, and honestly kind of even leaves it open for something if we want to do it later. And then also, I don't remember the genesis of this, but Laser Cats was one that was up as well. And just people were throwing out different names, and we were just throwing everything against the wall to see what stuck. But Love Thy Nerd.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Laser Cats would not be around here 5 years later.
I don't know, man. The internet's a weird place, like it might be. Who knows?
You get a cease and desist from SNL, Mr. Lorne
Hey, that'd
Michaels.
be fine. Yeah.
Or no, that was
Sometimes
Lonely
just
Island,
honored
wasn't it?
me.
Was it the?
It was Lonely
was the
Island,
digital
but
shorts.
does Lauren own them? He might.
So in the last 5 years, as we said, a lot has happened, a lot has changed. How has the mission of LTN evolved since that first meeting?
Oh, wow. The mission of LTN has wildly evolved. I have probably in the last week and a half, I've gone back and just scrubbed the internet for places that anybody from Love Thy Nerd has done an interview. Just to kind of see what has changed. What were the things that we were saying then versus the things that we've said now? And I say that they've wildly changed. That's not completely accurate, but our mission has stayed the same. We exist to be the love of Jesus to nerds and nerd culture. The way that we have done that has changed. We would only, well, I would say only, we would heavily focus on our mission trips going to conventions because that was the biggest part of what we had done previously at Game Church that we brought over. And so that was kind of easy for us. We're learning how to do it in a newer and more exciting way, but it wasn't we were not going and doing something like completely different. We existed primarily as a way to reach the unchurched or people with church hurt. That was kind of one of our big deals. We wanted to reach the Jimmies and the Johnnies. We really did. And I would say that over the last probably year, what we've seen that was the culmination of 4 years worth of ministry. And so what we've seen over the last year in this leading up to year 5 is that we actually do need to lean a little bit more into the church without becoming a Christian hangout club or just a place that is only welcoming and inviting for Christians. But we've seen time and time and time again that we're having to retrain Christians on how to better love and serve their nerdy neighbors and how to actually love and actually serve them. And so we just kind of paused and said, what would it look like if we just started at the root and got involved with some churches and helped them to create spaces and like for lack of a better word programs and things that will help them to love and serve the nerds in their space better. And so that would be probably for me one of the biggest, I would say missional changes that we've done. Doesn't change our mission, our vision, or our values, but what it does is it helps us to expand the actual reach and impact, whether it's us at Love Thy Nerd or somebody that comes after us that has the opportunity to deal with somebody who has gone through some crazy amount of church hurt. If we've had a chance to impact them, we can do the thing that we count as a win, which is to change preconceived notions that either the church has with nerd culture or that nerds have with church culture. And if we could train the church to better love and serve the nerds, then the next people that come in the line will have an easier time. Not that it's all about being easy, but that person is then more receptive to our ultimate truth, which is the love of Jesus.
And so, with that, talking about how the mission is changed a little bit more, focusing on trying to train the church better. What's coming next for those that haven't heard yet?
Absolutely. Our next thing, and this is our big thing, this is the major thing that we are working on for 2023. And if it works, beyond. If it doesn't, just for 2023. But we're doing what's called the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. And that is the thing that we are leaning into heavily this year. We have a brand new staff member. Matt, you're one of them, but we also have a brand new staff member in Luke. And I say brand new, it feels like you guys have been around for 1,000 years, which we're just going to go ahead and say that you have.
Yeah, for real.
But as a part of this, what we call the LTN 2.0, right? The next phase of what God is doing in and through this organization, we've brought in Luke he started off doing streaming and now we've moved him per his request into an area that we're calling IRL events lead. And so he's working with, some other people to be able to build these in-person gatherings, whether it's a mission trip or an event like the Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. And so he's working to bring people together to create engaging and exciting places and talks and experiences for churches, organizations, ministry leaders, nonprofits, for profits, it doesn't matter. Anybody who thinks that they would benefit from being in the space where they can hear from industry leaders, people that are already leading out and using nerd culture ministry as a way to love and serve the people that are right around them, we're going to bring those people in and they're going to have a chance to teach everybody from their perspective. They're just using our platform, right? They're going to have a chance to teach people from their perspective how to love, serve, and engage the nerds that are in their space. So that could be a church, it could be a YMCA, it could be a Boys and Girls Club, it could be like a local municipality. It doesn't really matter to us. What we want to do is we want to take the knowledge that we have and the resources, actual resources and the resource of people that we have to love and serve and train and equip and empower people to better love and serve their nerdy neighbors. And so that's going to be happening in November of 2023. Specifically, I believe it's the 5th through the 9th. Do not quote me on that because I'm not looking at a calendar right now, but it's that week. And it's going to be in at my home church at First Baptist Church, Marble Falls in Texas. And we're going to be reaching out like within about a 300-mile radius, give or take. So from me, that is Dallas, that's Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and it even reaches, out to West Texas, that's Midland, Odessa area. And we did that because we're like, "Hey man, what can we do to give people something that they don't have to fly into?" If anybody from the country or outside of the country wants to come, they're welcome too. But we want to create a local network and a series of local networks in this to where it's like, hey, you're in the Houston area. Hey, here are 3 other organizations that came to NCMS that are trying to reach nerds as well. And so when you guys do an event, here's the people that you can call on to help you do that. Here are local people that you can lean on, ask questions, experiment with, do all sorts of stuff. And if it works, that's the hope. If it works, then in 2024, it will not be in Texas. It'll be in another part of the country. So we can do the exact same thing. I don't know if 300 miles is going to be the radius every time. In Texas, we had to do 300 miles so that we could touch anything. But if we go East Coast or something like that, we may, kind of shrink it down a little bit. But the idea is that people will not have to fly in. They don't have to. They can just drive in, and all they have to worry about is hotel stay.
Beautiful. Well, with that, you're also talking about, you're focusing on the future. I want to look back on the past again here. What is one thing, if you can narrow it down to one thing, that LTN has accomplished in these 5 years that you are most proud of or excited about?
Oh man, yeah, this one's actually pretty easy for me. And it has very little to do with what you can see in our organization. It has more to do with kind of what you can feel. So the thing that I'm actually most excited about and proud of that we've accomplished as Love Thy Nerd are the relationships that we've built. We tell people all day long, top to bottom, we are our foundation is Jesus Christ and sharing the love of Jesus with nerds and nerd culture. And then the very next stone on top of that is relationship. Because we don't feel that we can actually get to that bedrock until we have built a relationship. And so it's more of a bridge than a foundation or like a building. But at the same time, we've seen that when we when we go into situations where we're not trying to think about a person as a project, right? Like this is a person that we're just going to love. We're going to take care of. We're going to nurture this relationship. We're going to foster this relationship with a person, not because I need them to know Jesus the same way that I do at the end of the conversation. Like that that mentality of not coming in with an agenda. And for Christians, like I said, we reprogram a lot, right? Because that's how a lot of Christians are programmed is by the end of the conversation, walk them down the Romans road, give them the sinner's prayer, yada yada yada. We don't take that approach. We just don't because we know who we are dealing with. We take the time to listen to people and understand them. And if you're a person who absolutely has to get to that conversation, I'm not saying that that's wrong. That's just not our approach. That's not how we do things. But I will say that this is what we have seen to be ridiculously effective. And that's what I'm the most proud of because we get to partner with people and organizations that do not love Jesus, um, don't care about Jesus, could not care any less about Jesus. But what they do is they talk to us and they say, hey, we're going to be at a convention. We only want your people, or we want to give you the first opportunity to take the slots to work in our booth. And I mean, first and foremost, like we've got really great relationships with Funko Games. And that is the Funko that everybody knows. Funko Pops, the pop vinyls, all those stuff. Matt, I know that you know what Funkos are. Like,
What?
yeah, I've never heard of
Never
them.
heard of them.
But like that is a relationship that we have, that we came into it and we were like, hey, this is what we do. We're here on mission, but I promise you that we're going to bring you the best and the brightest, the most passionate and competent volunteers that you've ever seen. Us saying that is a lot different than us delivering on that promise. Now, glory be, we did deliver on that promise and have delivered on that promise several times with them. And that's just one company. That's a big name, right? That's people to be thinking about. But we also have other relationships with people who are outside of our faith as well in the industry. And they love us, right? That's not a horn toot. That's just us telling us that's them telling us, rather. It's not us telling us, them telling us and affirming that, hey, what we are doing is actually working. That we're not coming in, and what my mother-in-law so lovingly used to say, that are you being persecuted for righteousness sake or obnoxiousness sake? Like, we're not coming in toxic to these people. The relationships we're actually building are working. They're working. And even if this is the cherry on top, dude, even if the people that we are pouring into do not come to know Jesus the way that we do, we have seen splash damage, meaning that the people around them that are affected, right, by them are feeling that love, and they're coming and talking to us and either thanking us or asking questions or trying to get involved in what we're doing. And to me, again, that's like what we're trying, that's the exact thing that we're trying to do. And it blows my mind every single time.
Very nice. Um, I'd like to say the questions are going to get easier, but they're not. I got a few more for you here. First of all, this might be a fun one. Thinking of more fun type things, what are some of your favorite memories from the last 5 years of LTN?
My favorite memories. Oh my gosh, dude. We've had an opportunity to travel so many different places, meet so many different people. And if I'm thinking outside of just like pure relationships, um man, there are a lot of places that we've been that have just been bonkers. I wish my name was Matt Warmbier and I could tell you about that time I went to Germany, but I'm not, and so I can't. That would absolutely have been one of my favorite memories. Um, but man, I just, legitimately speaking, some of my favorite memories, and like none of them are specific. I'm not like, that one, I want to recreate that. It's like the feeling of a time where we were together. I love more than anything in the world staying up and playing board games with people until 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, that's a thing that I will probably just cherish forever. And when I go to a convention, I have an opportunity to do that with other people who are super excited to play games. And then from that, really, I'm telling you, man, if you can push past the witching hour and you can get to some of those time frames, you can have real conversations with people because people are tired at that point and they're playing a game and they kind of let their guard down a little bit. But I love doing that. I will tell you this, that on the topic of playing games late into the night with people, one of my favorite people to play games with that late is Drew Dixon. We coined we I don't know if we coined a phrase, but he developed a name and it was Sleepy Drew. Anytime Drew wanted to like get in, and it would be like 10 o'clock, and we're like, don't ask Drew to play a game. He's not going to be worth anything. But we would do it anyway. And he would fall asleep in between his turn every single time. Sometimes we would cheat, and he would still beat us at Scythe. And I'm not super happy about that, but that's how it went down.
That's fantastic. Oh gosh. Um, all right. Big question. Again,
Yep.
another one. Where is LTN going to be 5 years from now?
Ooh wee. Hey, that's an interesting question. That question, where is LTN going to be in 5 years? That question is actually what prompted most of the change that exists in LTN right now in current space and time. In January of 2022, I had to pause for a second to remember where I was in time. In January of 2022, we got together as a staff and we were not able to meet in person, which was just terrible. Like the only reason we weren't able to meet was because literally a freak snowstorm closed the pass that had not been closed in 20 years. So we couldn't meet. And loud and clear, God, we hear you, right? But we found ourselves asking some really heavy questions of each other and also of the organization. And I remember very vividly saying, um, we're not moving forward at the rate that I'm comfortable with. And I said, if this is where LTN is going to be in the next 5 years, then I probably will not be here. And that's not a nice, happy, frothy thing to think or to say. But I knew that God was calling me to bigger and better and greater things. And that meant progress and moving forward and not stagnation. And so a lot of those thoughts led to, some of the decisions for some people to move on and for God to move in the hearts of everybody in different directions. And that just is something that happens over time with people and organizations. But to look now at where we're going with NCMS, with different relationships that we have in the industry, with places that the website is going, with podcast network and our resources, the more people that are hearing about Love Thy Nerd because I'm having the opportunity to go and speak at church camps and fall retreats and all sorts of stuff, revivals. Where is LTN going in 5 years? Where will it be? I think that those are 2 different questions, right? Where is it going? It's going forward. It's going up. That's where it's going. Where will it be? My hope, this is my hope. I hope that, more of us are closer together. That's my hope in 5 years. We'll see how the housing market actually goes. But my hope is that in 5 years, when you think about nerd culture ministry, the very first thing that comes to your mind, whether you're a part of this organization or not, is Love Thy Nerd. If somebody says, "Man, I really, man, I wonder what what God would think about me playing the new Call of Duty game," because let's be real, Call of Duty will be around in 5 years. The answer will be, well, let's go see what Love Thy Nerd has. I want us to be kind of as, uh, you know, I want us to be said in the same breath with Christians as like IGN is with video games, right? So when people are thinking about nerd culture and where it's going and why it's going and trends and all sorts of stuff, I want people to think about Love Thy Nerd. And on top of that, I want people to see that we are a rocket, that they are welcome to board at any time without having to lose their own organization or their thing that God has laid on their heart. In 5 years, we'll have plenty of space, Lord willing, right? We'll have plenty of space for more people to come on and help us and to push this ministry forward and to move it in ways that we never, ever thought possible. But that can only happen. Like that can only happen if we continue to do the things that we're doing. And so we're currently looking for people that are going to help us do that and get there. Um, and so, yeah, in 5 years, where are we? Man, I don't know exactly, but I know that we are moving up. We want to be more effective in our partnerships. I'm a big proponent of long-term strategic partnerships, and so we're working with some really large companies and organizations that we will tell you more about as those become available. But the more ingrained we become in the culture, the more relationships we build with people in the industry, whether it's video games, comic books, tabletop, what have you, it doesn't matter. the bigger and better this ministry is going to become, not so that we can be exalted, but so that God's kingdom can grow here on the earth as it is in heaven.
All right, final question. You've made it. When you pray for LTN,
Oh, wow.
what do you ask of God?
Yeah, okay, in a like an era of transparency here, like I wish I had something super deep and spiritual. Money. I pray for money. And that's not even a joke. If anybody asks me even in real time, "Hey, what do you guys need?" Cash. Like, unfortunately, ministry costs money. Um, when we are actually going to do something, then my prayers are a little bit more specific, and it's a lot about softening the hearts of the people that we're going to be around, right? And it's my thought process isn't that like God is just moving in that moment that I've asked him. It's that he's been moving since before time for that specific moment. And so a lot of the things that I will say is, God, continue to soften the hearts. God, continue to make path. God, continue to ordain the steps of not just myself, but of everybody that we're going to come in contact with. Because I know that feeling of like literally stepping in one direction and then seeing something and hesitating and going in another direction. And I want people to kind of feel the need to continue on if it's going to bring them in contact with us. And so I just pray that God does that. I also pray for you guys, Matt. I pray for you. I pray for the 5 other people that are on our team right now. That God would, if they're physically broken, which a lot of us just seem to be these days. We're getting old, and I pray that God would heal us so that we can continue doing the work. And I pray that God would give us boldness to do the things that need to be done, not the things that we necessarily want to do. Because things like NCMS, things like, bringing on a radio station, things like creating all these resources, going on these trips, bringing all these people into our space and giving them an opportunity to speak not just to us, but also into us. Like those are terrifying things. And so my prayers are usually, God, bring the cash, right? Secondly, God, keep us healthy. Third, God, open up the doors and just soften the hearts of the people that need to hear the things that you want us to say. And then also, last but not least, I always end most of these prayers. I always end most. That's a stupid way to say that. I usually end most of my prayers about LTN with, let us say the things that we need to say when we need to say them, and also shut our traps when we don't need to say anything. So that's usually how I pray for Love Thy Nerd.
Wise words right there for us all. Yes. All right. Well, you made it through the gauntlet. I do appreciate you sitting down with me.
Yeah.
And if you want to just yell out "Happy Birthday, Love Thy Nerd" real quick, we can wrap this up. 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday, LTN. Daddy loves you.
All right, that'll do it. Man, thank you so much.
Sweet, bro.
For every inch of dark, there's a mile